Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Shishir. I have with me Sharon and Purnendu from photography department. We will be conducting the webinar on photography department and the careers in photography today. Uh, I would request Sharon to start presenting the webinar, please.
Yeah, Shishir, just give me a second. I'm just opening the PPT from my end.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay, can you see my screen, guys? Shishir, can you see my screen?
Yes, Sharon.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
Cool. So, hi everyone. Great to see all of you all here, and a very good morning to everybody. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about photography as a field, okay, and what are the career options you have, how you can start off or kickstart your career in photography. All right, so it will be handled by me, Shishir, and Bhavna, but we also do have other faculty who are on the panel and who will pitch in to help us, deliver this better to you. All right, we have a few things. So please, we have a question and answer round. So that will be towards the end, okay, and it will be for a longer period of time, probably half an hour to 45 minutes. So I would request you guys to refrain from asking questions while the presentation is on. Once we're done with the presentation, once we have finished, giving you an insight into what we have planned for you, you can always ask us questions that you have uh, uh, in your mind, or that you've actually been wanting to ask in the past as well. Fair enough. All right. So to give you a little bit of heads up about the photography department at CMEDU, we have three, four centers right now. One in Bangalore, one in Pune, one in Mumbai, and the other one in Chandigarh. And we work really hard towards making sure that you get the best education possible. So if anybody is interested in getting to know about the different courses we offer, you can always contact us. So without any further ado, let me just go ahead and introduce our the members who are going to be talking about the career in the field of photography today. All right. So an introduction to our team. So that's me. My name is Sharon. I've been in the field of photography for about 6 to 7 years now. I come from a small town called Mysore, and I've been in Bangalore for a while now working. I've been with CMEDU for about 2 years now. And yeah, so I specialize in fine art photography, and I completed my bachelor's of fine arts in photography and photojournalism from Mysore. So I would request Shishir to, give a little bit of introduction about yourself, Shishir?
Yeah, sure, Sharon. Thank you. Hey, everyone. Thanks for attending the webinar. Hope to keep this more of an interactive session. And we all hope to give as much as information as possible in regards to the course that we have to offer at CMEDU on photography. To talk about a little about myself, I am Shishir. I am from Bangalore. I work as a photographer faculty here in CMEDU. Also, I come with 10 years of experience from the industry. I till date pursue my freelancing as well as teach here at CMEDU. I have been pretty much specializing in product and still life. I do shoot for fashion, and yes, I concentrate more on e-commerce as well. I also have a fair bit of idea on filmmaking, maybe product videos and so on. So yeah, that's pretty much me. I have been working with CMEDU for over 3 months now. So hoping to see more of you in person. Yeah, that's gonna be fun to work with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and our third team member is Punendu Bala, who's also faculty here in Bangalore. So I'll just go ahead and ask Bala to give a little bit of insight about himself.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Shishir. Hello, everyone. This is Purnendu Bala, and I am working here in Simildu from around, it's almost like 1.5 years. And I'm from regarding my background, I'm from like commercial photography background as well as TVC filmmaker. So like it's been almost like 10 to 11 years that I'm working in this field. So thank you so much for attending our webinar today. So hopefully we will be able to cater your queries. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So let us just start off with, giving you an introduction to what is photography and, make you understand what exactly does photography, what kind of role does photography play in the industry. So photography is a highly evolved art and a means of storytelling through static images. Here, what we do in photography is we try to convey a message through capturing a moment in time, a static image. In other words, it's a visual, communication method that we use to, really make a difference in terms of, communicating with people. So there's a lot of storytelling that's involved. That is the reason why there's so many aspects to photography, not just the technical aspects, but artistic side of photography as well, where you need to concentrate on the composition and the framing of an image, because it really makes a huge difference when you are trying to actually put a story across to your audiences. So photography is a highly evolved art form, yes, though fairly new compared to most of the art forms. Photography doesn't lag in any way. It has that that means of actually capturing an audience's attention by being very different and very specific. And today I think photography is growing so vastly that different kinds of photography are just coming up on a regular basis. So photography is a highly evolved art and a means of storytelling through static images. Mainly we associate photography with static images. As it goes, photography becomes, it converts into filmmaking, and there you have multiple images which go into play. But then any form of visual communication starts off with photography, especially when you're capturing images. Although with an eye for, along with an eye for detail, professional photographers require a perfect blend of technical experience and creativity. Yes, it is very, very important for you to understand how you're going to use your camera. What are the different aspects to your camera, like, the functionalities of your camera. Along with that, you need to have an eye for detail. If you don't have that eye for detail, it gets a little harder for you to learn photography. There are a lot of people who actually know nothing about photography, but still start, to learn photography or to study photography to get to know how they can, become artistic, or, how can they develop the eye for photography. But initially, you need to have some kind of a, driving power, to have that feeling of, wanting to know more about photography. So along with an eye for detail, professional photographers require a perfect blend of technical experience. You need to be technically strong if you're going to deliver a message. If you don't know how to use light, if you're not aware of the different qualities of light and how it is used by a camera to project an image, it gets very hard for you to create an image, right? It's not about just clicking a picture, it's about creating a picture. And you need a little bit of creativity, you need some kind of, creative factor to guide you in creating this technical image that we're talking about, all right? So understanding light, along with that, playing with light is very, very important in photography. To gain industrial recognition, a high level of proficiency in the art is essential. Yes, if see there are kind of people who own a camera, all right? But what sets you apart? How good are you? Or how different are you in terms of, conveying your visual message or your visual storytelling is very, very essential. For that, you really need to work hard. You need to practice on a regular basis. Photography is not something where you wake up in the morning and then you decide, okay, I'm going to buy a camera and start clicking pictures. That's not possible. You have to have some kind of a, training to understand how the camera works, because the camera is art and science put together, right? It has a lot of mechanics. You need to understand how the camera really works, how it functions. There are various different types of cameras in the market which you can opt for. But if you really want to get into photography as a profession, you need to really understand how a professional camera, a digital camera, a DSLR or a mirrorless camera really works. So to gain industrial recognition, a high level of proficiency in the art, you need to be professional. You need to be able to, tomorrow if someone asks you, tell me something about, tell me the anatomy of the camera, you have to be able to talk about it. That is what is proficiency. And then if someone says, you know what, let's work on a project together, let's do a fashion shoot together, you need to be able to tell them how a fashion shoot is done. What are the different lights that will go into it? So a high level of proficiency in the art is very, very essential in photography nowadays, right? Because has become a very big industry. Visual communication today, I think all of us know, we all sit on Instagram at some point in our life. So more than words, I think we are all dependent mainly on visual communication. So here, photography actually steps in and makes life a little easy. Photography is no more restricted to just clicking pictures. It is about bringing out the essence of the message that needs to be shared with the respective audience. Yes, you need to be able to be connected with your subject to actually talk about the subject. See, visual communication is when you understand the topic, you're able to convey the topic better. If you don't know the topic or you don't know the subject really well, the image that you click will not be attractive to your client or to your audiences, because it is not just about clicking a picture, it is about feeling the picture, understanding your subject and talking about your subject. You're not verbally talking here, but you're visually conveying a message. So it is about bringing the essence of the message that needs to be shared with the respective audience. You have to be able to get your audience involved with your image. If you're not able to do that, then somewhere you have failed in terms of conveying your message. So that is when you have to start working hard towards building that visualization skill as a photographer. All right. So being a photographer is not just about clicking a picture. It's about understanding the situation that you're capturing. It is about understanding your camera. It is about understanding how the light is falling on your subject. How can you change the light to make it look a little different or better? If you need to add extra lights, if you need to add, professional lighting, that as well is something that is like an art and a science. So you need to know all these things before you could go ahead and get into the field of photography. So it's about bringing the essence of the message that needs to be shared with the respective audiences. If your audiences are not able to understand you, then you're failing. A formal education in the field opens the doors to further understanding of various fields of photography. This I agree on completely. Anybody for that matter, be it me or be it any of our our presenters today, all of us have had some kind of formal training in photography, And that is why we are here in the field. All right. So along with formal training, you need to have that practice. If you're not able to do that, if you cannot get formal training, Google is Google is only going to give you a little bit that you need. All right. Google is not going to be able to give you uh, a big amount of what is required, or the right amount of information that is required for you to dive into this field of photography. So I think a formal education is in the field opens doors to further understanding. Let's say you walk into an interview tomorrow, all right, for a photographer's job, and they see your portfolio, but you don't have a degree. I mean, fair enough, portfolio is as important as a degree, but a degree or a formal training, maybe a diploma, it always adds an factor. It's a very important, a competitive word out there. The moment they know you have a formal training in the field, they know that you are capable. They know that even if you don't know the job, you have learned something in the past that will guide you in the job. So a formal education in the field is very, very important. Um, I would request Shishir to take over the slide. Shishir, would you want to talk about the various genres of photography?
Sure. Thanks, Sharon.
Okay.
Guys, so what we can look at on this particular slide is three different types of genres of photography that you mostly hear in the industry today, right? So one being commercial. We're going to take the questions. We request you to please note down your questions so that you don't forget it, and we will definitely answer all your questions in the Q&A session just to maintain the flow, right? So the three genres that we are going to discuss about is, the commercial aspect, or also what you call as commissioned works that you do. And there is something that you guys would already know about, which is more of documentary style, photojournalism, documentary, and those kind of things. And there is one more, which is fine arts, right? Fine arts being, with more of an artistical approach to the entire genre of photography that we shoot, right? So just to go in a little more detail about these three, I would like to start with commercial photography, or the main forte that I probably prefer doing for my own works, right? So commercial photography, we know there are multiple genres, that subcategories that come inside. We have seen fashion photography come into that, people and portraits. We know there are so many assignments out there, which is headshots, corporate headshots, and people photography, which is editorial, lifestyle imaging, and those kind of stuff. So these are some of the things which are very, very well advertised and very well vastly used in the industry today. So these are more commercialized, and more of an assignments revolve around these subjects, right? And obviously, when we are talking about commercial, we also need to understand what kind of product or tabletop photography is involved. Product and tabletop, like I mentioned, ranges all the way from the catalogs that you shoot for your e-commerce, all the way to probably brochures, print brochures, and holdings, and those kind of things that you end up seeing in your day-to-day lives. Like if I have to give you a fair bit of examples, you just hoping that you guys are freshers, and you need examples, right? Like, let me say, if you're shooting for a Mintra, Jabong, or anything, so they also require product photography. And likewise, if you're shooting for your hoardings with an ad agency, you probably shoot people photography there with lifestyle imaging, mood shots, and those kind of stuff. So all these pretty much fall under commercial photography, where there is some fair bit of advertising involved, where there is marketing involved in that genre. And yes, today you guys would have seen a lot of boom, not just today, maybe past couple of years, how the wedding, corporate and event photography has gained this importance. Well, like probably 5 years, 10 years before, it was not so much of a boom, but we need to understand how industry is evolving. Photography is no more conventional. Before, it was just typical wedding conventional photography, but now we have so much creativity, so much technicalities and aesthetics that is involved in wedding and events, that itself is a very specialized genre out there. So that also is something that we need to keep in mind. And yes, architecture, industrial, interior, all these are related to, buildings and, monuments and those kind of stuff, very, very solid structures where like we have, a chain of hotels, 3 stars, 4 stars, and these kind of hotels who want their website to be built, and they definitely need images for that. Images meaning they need photographs shot by professional photographers who do their job good. So they do pay photographers to, shoot good pictures of their facilities, whether it is, a hotel, whether it is a industry or anything, just to showcase how good they are at what they are doing. So these are a few very, I just took 5 minutes to explain you the very overview point of what commercial photography involves, right? So these are some of the genres that we have in commercial photography. So moving on to documentary photography, I will probably give a little overview and pass it on to Sharon ma'am. She can explain it a lot better. So like documentary photography, we know there is so much of photojournalism involved. There is magazines, there are news agencies today which require photojournalists, which where our photojournalists continuously shoot what's happening, like taking the present situation, that is the COVID-19, how our photojournalists are working day in and out to report news to us through those fantastic pictures that they carry, that they shoot on site, on the field, right? So these kind of stuff involve or come under photojournalism. There is a lot more to talk about wildlife photography. That itself is a huge genre. So there are very specialized photographers who shoot series of documentary assignments for Nat Geo, for Discovery, and many publications and channels online. So wildlife photography is another genre which is very, very technically challenging, and not just technically, it requires a lot of patience, a lot of characteristics when you choose to be a wildlife photographer. And landscape travel, yes, very, very again on a very high level. It's a very specialized genre, wherein one needs to enjoy with what he does. Like if I choose to be a landscape photographer or a travel photographer, I need to enjoy traveling, so only then I will probably be successful in it. So these are some of the genres that we wanted to discuss. Maybe Sharon ma'am, can you please take up documentary
Yes.
photography and fine art and explain a little more?
Yeah, not a problem, not a problem. All right, so let's distinguish between all the three genres that we're talking about here. Okay, when we talk about commercial photography, it is a means of making money. All right, the one place where you can make money, whether you're commissioned by a company or you're working as a freelancer, whatever it might be, commercial photography. The word commercial itself means money making, right? So I think most of the job availabilities come under this category, all right, where you have different industries. Now I think, like I said earlier, visual communication has become such a big importance in our lives today, that we all expect to see images that are somehow connected to what we understand in the world. So I think commercial photography, it plays a role in not just visually communicating about something, but also branding. All right, when someone wants to sell something, it is through commercial photography that they sell. Even if we talk about fashion people and portrait, we do fashion people and portrait to probably sell garments, right? So fashion industry also is about making money. Then you have product and tabletop photography, where you have food photography, you have the product photography that you see on these e-commerce sites. Then you have editorial photography, where you have magazine layouts of the product, maybe with a film star endorsing these products. Then you have event and wedding photography. I think this is something that is gaining a lot of recognition today, because there are so many I think brides out there that want a very story or picturesque images to be clicked. So a lot of wedding photographers, I mean, you see big fat weddings having like multiple photographers capturing it. And I think this side of photography, commercial photography, is very, very important. When you are good at commercial photography, you can always jump into documentary photography, which is photojournalism, street photography, wildlife photography. But to build your your base, or to say, in other words, to build your knowledge in the field of photography, I think commercial photography, or understanding commercial photography, is very, very important. Yes, of course, there are some people, like, I'm one of those people who loves photojournalism, because photojournalism is about completely about storytelling. It is feeling for your subject. If you see a person who's begging on the road, you are able to actually feel that person's pain and then capture the image. That is what a photojournalist does. And a lot of people who are into photojournalism, they commit their entire life into the genre. They travel a lot. They probably don't meet their families for years together. If they're actually doing war photography, until the war is over, they're stuck. So photojournalism is that one field where you need passion. Commercial photography, you can pick anything at any point if you have the formal training. But photojournalism is that one field, photojournalism and wildlife photography, I would say, where you really need to have that need for for that, for capturing those images. If you don't have that passion, then that field becomes very monotonous for you. Then street photography, I think street photography is something which we all do. As a photographer, at some point in my life, I have taken out a camera and gone and captured the streets, where you capture daily life. It is basically documentation of what is happening around. There are many street photographers who have captured streets of India, and maybe 10-20 years down the line, those images have really made a difference. Those images suddenly go into photojournalism, because it is some kind of documentation of what has taken place. Then you have wildlife photography, which is another beautiful branch. See, wildlife photography as well, you have to have immense patience for it. All right, you can't just decide, what, I want to click a picture of a tiger, I'm going to go to the zoo. That doesn't come under wildlife photography. Wildlife photography is understanding nature. There are a lot of wildlife photographers who understand animal cries, who understand mating calls. These things, it's an art and a science together again. So if you're looking at getting into wildlife photography, you need to be very strong with your skills in photography, and then you need to have that passion towards animals, preserving animals. When you're capturing the image, making sure you're not going to disturb the animal. That is what is a true wildlife photographer. And eventually you will understand more on it when you start diving deeper into it. Then you have landscape, travel, and environmental photography, which is everything to do with travel. Again, here it's like photojournalism. You have a life on the road. If you're prepared for it, if you know that at some point I'm not going to have enough money, but I have to still somehow travel, that is when you are capable of being a travel photographer. Moving on to fine art photography, I think fine art photography is that genre of photography that is all about artistic expressions. All right, so it is about bringing out that artist in you, trying different things. Not just sticking to photography, but bringing in some artistic aesthetics. There are so many techniques. I won't dive deep into the techniques of fine art photography, but fine art photography is that one branch where you really need to have artistic abilities to make money. It is not easy to make money in fine art photography. All right, like commercial photography, fine art photography is knowing photography, but also knowing art, history of art, understanding the various genres of art, like understanding painting, understanding sculptures, studying paintings and sculptures. So nowadays, if you see under fine art photography, you have conceptual photography. I think that's growing. We are all interested in conceptual photography. When we see an image where, conceptually the photographer is talking about not smoking, where, the cigarette is lit and then, it is on an apple that is rotting. We all somehow get, convinced that, photographer is saying something very, interesting to us. So again, fine art photography is that one sector that, you can express yourself artistically. You can use metaphors, you can use juxtapositioning, where you can use contrast between two different characters. Then you have fine art photography, which is using artistic expressions, taking a picture and then painting on the picture. All that comes under fine art photography, abstract photography. Then there is surrealism, which is an art movement. Okay, surrealism is, I think it's fairly more complex compared to fine art photography. So let's not dive into surreal photography. Again, surreal photography is like, floating people, floating houses, something that is completely unrealistic. Creating it, and for surreal photography, you need to have some kind of understanding of using softwares. All right. So moving on, I think we can ask Bala sir to, start about kickstarting your career in photography. Bala?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon, for
Yeah,
passing me.
Bala, little more louder because you're not very audible.
Audible. Am I audible now, Sharon?
Uh, yeah, Bala, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Okay, so as Shishi sir and Sharon madam has already told that photography is something which is related to a kind of career, which is if you have something passion into you, like to do something new and something different that everyone is doing, everyone is following today like a different career path. But if you have a passion for something doing very different, so yes, photography is for you. And obviously, as we discussed already, that like photography having three different major genres. There it has like commercial photography, then we have like documentary photography, and then fine arts photography. So when you start your like major questions, what I see from students, like how we can start into photography career. So see, as I said, like if you have a passion for something, especially in terms of like if you feel that you are artist, and if you wanted to do something new in your career, and along with that you have like agar or urge to do that part, so definitely photography is for you. So yes, so photography after 12th, if you are in 12th right now, so after that basically for photography there is no formal education is not required, but yes, if you have a formal education, that will give a edge to your career. So I can explain you like how exactly a formal education can give you an edge. Suppose you are just a student right now and you are planning for your career, and you think that photography could be your career because your skills aligned to that, or your interest aligned to or towards photography in that way. So there are, you know, that nowadays the DSLR is very not as much willing to buy DSLR. So every third person or fifth person nowadays having a DSLR or some sort of camera, whether it is a bridge. And our career has happened. We have started our career. We tested, we tried, and then after that we have learned. We failed sometimes, and then after that we have proceeded. We learned from our failures, and then we have come up with this position. Now, formal education, what it does is, if you are going for formal education instead of doing photography by your own, it helps. For example, you have faculties who have, you have mentors who have long experience of photography, and they have done lot of experiments in their life based upon that, and they have experience with working with different brands, different people, different kind of clients. So whatever they have experienced, they can share with you. So suppose you have chosen a graduation for you into photography. So yes, graduation will help you a 3 year where you are actually getting mentored by these people who already have experience from industry. So this kind of syllabus actually give you idea that how exactly you can decide your career path. So this is how, that is the reason formal photography training, I feel it is quite important, because it will shorten your struggle in your career. So that is how it is. Then choosing your equipment. If you see a lot of students who are actually interested into photography, they always think that which equipment is good and which equipment is not good, or which is best, because always I can understand that at this stage you might be having a very limited budget with you, because it is, you are not earning now right now, so you are dependent upon your parents. So this time, so whenever it's very common, like when I started my career, I started with Canon 400D, which is very base level camera. APC size camera. But when I gradually started and I started earning money, so that time I then up to once in your career you feel now, okay, my old camera is not going to work because I have to give professional work to my client. So that time you have to update yourself. Otherwise, what I suggest actually as when you're starting your career, so any camera which is full frame is good, as we know that full frame camera will give you the best output. But if you have a crop sensor camera also at this moment, that is fine. But I suggest at this time, if you have no money or if you are having less budget, so this time you can go with used camera which is easily available in the market. You can go with the used lenses which is also easily available in the market. So best the thing is, if you are going for this equipments, you can easily sell after 1 year or 2 year in the almost in the same price currently what you have purchased, in that way. So it you can, and then you can, once you require that bigger cameras, then you can purchase in your future. Yes, other equipments which is required, a basic requirement, you require tripod, you require it lens. At least you have like wide angle lens, you should be having a standard zoom lens, and you should be having like little bit formal zoom lens with you. So but yeah, lenses are most costly than the camera body. So if any lenses which is providing you the focal length from the wide angle to any zoom limit, like for example 1855, which is the camera kit lens, so that is fine. Or like 7200 or this kind of zoom lenses, or 7300, this kinds of range you can go ahead, because prime lenses might be costlier for you right now. So invest in camera bag, laptop, and editing software. Right now, yes, invest in camera bag. Yes, it is important, because if you have a good camera bag, you can secure your investment. Lacking of good camera bag might cause you damage of your equipments, so that is very important. Laptop at this stage, yes, because if you are shooting your picture, you wanted to present that picture to the audience, so little bit of color correction and exposure balance is required into that. So that is very important. If that is not there, so no problem, still you can pursue your career. So going
Bala,
forward you can,
one second before you could go further.
yeah.
Guys, editing softwares also are very important, all right? I know I've not added one more, file that says
Mm-hmm.
editing software, but I think Bala sir will agree with me on this, that, as you mature as a photographer, you need to tweak your images a little bit. Maybe, if not, if you want to keep the authenticity of your image and be, as genuine as possible, okay. But basic color correction, increasing decreasing the lighting, these are small things that really, pop out your images. What do you think, Bala sir, about that?
Of course, that is important. As I said, like yes, little bit color correction and balancing in exposure is obviously it's required, because if I'm shooting in RAW, obviously, like we can shoot RAW or JPEG from your camera. But if I'm shooting RAW, definitely I'm shooting RAW because I want apply little bit post production in my picture. So that time editing software is important for you. Little bit knowledge taking of editing software for a photographer, definitely it will help you in career. Okay, so next thing is building a professional portfolio. Yes, this is everything. If you don't have professional portfolio, whether you pursued like whether you have completed your graduation, or you are just started your career without any formal education, doesn't matter actually, because a portfolio is very important. But yes, if you have a portfolio plus your formal education, that will give you edge. But portfolio, since you are working, since you wanted to go for career, like for example, if you go for any job, you required a resume, and they ask for your previous experience. Same way, if you go for any job or any kind of if you do a freelance work also, if you're meeting with your client will be asking. If you are going for wedding photography, client will be asking you, have you done any wedding photography previously? So obviously, if you have some kind of work which you have done before, so that is called a portfolio, and you can showcase. So as much as good as your portfolio, you will be getting the chances are more to get that job done. Now question will arise that if I am starting my career, how can I showcase my portfolio, because this is my beginning. So yes, beginning, like as everyone know that at the beginning, you might be not having your portfolio. That is the reason you have to invest your time now to build your portfolio, so that going forward, once you think that yes, I'm ready for commercial thing, yes, that time you can along with this portfolio you can approach to that particular thing. Okay, there is one more thing. Creating online presence is very important, because if you are beginner right now, so this is fine. You focus on your portfolio building. Okay, as and when you grow yourself, as you know that online presence is very important, because if you are not online, if you don't have social media account, if you don't have website, or if you are not on LinkedIn, so that means you are restricting yourself. How many people will might know you? Might be your friends only, right? But if in a Bangalore there are so many photographers, but if you have your online presence, so if somebody is searching from Google that best photographers in Bangalore, so if you have your website, there is a chance that your website may come. That means that person might find you. But if you don't have your website, Instagram, anything, if you don't have, so obviously you're losing that business. So that is the reason a strong online presence is always important thing.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah. So I think that summarizes exactly where you need to be. You can't be a ghost in the industry. As soon as you start off, even if you're a rookie, if you're somebody who's just kicking off their career in photography, creating like a small web page, and even there's a lot of free websites which give you a domain that you can choose for starters, of course. And you can always jump into a professional level a little later, once you start becoming more proficient in your photography. Shishir, would you like to add anything to these 3 points that we spoke about?
I think pretty much everything is covered, Sharon. So just to sum up the whole thing, what I can probably add very quickly is like how maybe a very cheesy example, but most of the industry that one works in, maybe a doctor, maybe a lawyer, or maybe anybody who is into profession, right? So they all come with some kind of a formal background of studies. The reason is that's when they invest their time and study the subject, study, understand what it is, know what the careers look like, and they decide. I think students here, or the aspiring students who want to get into CMEDU, I think this is the best platform for them to know what they are getting into, what they are offered with, and how they can choose a career. Hence, I would like to state again that formal training in photography is one of the most important things, where they learn the tricks of the trade, the technicalities, and everything that we have discussed so far. I think that's from my end. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Ashir. Let's move on. So, key skills for photographers, right? So, very, very important. This is, see, as photographers, as we dive into the industry, or as we step into the industry as well, we are expected to perform, or to to create images that speak louder than words. So, for that, we do require a few key skills. All right. So that is the first skill is creativity. Having some kind of a creativity in your images. You need to stand out, all right? If you are like a blind person who has, who's following the, the crowd and doing the same thing as the crowd, it will not put you apart or set you apart from the, industry. So for you to be recognized in the industry, and for people to start hiring you as a photographer, or to start giving you job opportunities, you need to have creativity. Next is technical photography skills. This is very important, because see, a lot of us think that let's go online, surf a couple of slides, and we learn everything that is required for technical photography. But that is not the fact, guys. It is very important. Even if you're not going to be able to study for a degree, taking up a small course where you have instructors from different genres, or different walks of life, teaching you technical skills of photography really pays off. Because other than using your camera, there is using lights. If you're going into commercial photography especially, you need to be able to understand how lights work. If you're talking about light modifiers, light sources, these are things that involve a little bit of science and a little bit of art. So Technical photography skills is also very important. Next, you have to have patience and concentration. Guys, you can't expect that the moment you carry a camera or you lift up a camera, you're going to become a great photographer. No, you have to be patient. You have to fail. Like Bala sir said, your failures always teach you something new in your career. So I think patience is very important. Every time you fail, learning from your failures. If your lighting technique went wrong, figuring out how can I change that lighting technique, how can I move the light to make it look a little better. So all of this comes in your patience. So you have to have some kind of patience and concentration. If someone is teaching you photography, they are taking a huge amount of their time to make you something in life, right? So it is very important for you to give them that year that you need to learn something from them. So patience and concentration is something that's very important in formal training. All right. Not just in formal training, but even when you're on the job. If you did not perform very well, you can't lose heart and say, okay, you know what, I'm not a good photographer. No, you need to be patient. You need to be able to deliver. To keep your job, you have to be on the top. You cannot be mediocre in the photography industry, because there's someone always out there who's better and is willing to actually take on your job. So being patient and concentrating on your job or on your career as a photographer, and that is a very big key skill that you really need. Then attention to detail, very important again. You have to understand all these small details that go into making a picture. If you leave out the most important aspect of your image, let's say you're doing a shoot, a model shoot, all right, and you've not added the most important prop, maybe something that the company wants to sell.
Uh, Sharon, you're not audible. Are we still online?
Strong networking skills, people skills, soft skills, especially talking about who you are in the industry, being able to sell yourself. That is very important. When you meet somebody, let's say you meet a potential client, even if you don't know photography, you have to appear very strong. You need to be able to let them understand that you are capable of, you know, doing the job for them. So strong networking skills, building a clientele, making people understand that you are capable of performing your duties very well. That is important. So strong networking skills is one essential skill that you need as a photographer. Then team working skills, again, as a photographer, you might be clicking the picture alone, but there's a lot of teamwork that goes into the entire picture being created. So working as a team, working with your stylist, working with another assistant photographer, treating your assistant photographers well, explaining to them as you are working so that they understand how the lights need to be tweaked. So it is a lot of teamwork that goes into, photography. So don't think that as a photographer, I'm going to be a lone wolf. It's not possible, especially in commercial photography. You need to have a strong team, or at least when you're working with a team, you need to be a strong personality. I think all of us who have worked in the e-commerce industry knows that you usually work alone, but there's always a big team. So communication with your team, explaining your idea to your team, then working together makes a huge difference. Does anybody want to add anything to this, Bala and Shishir?
Yeah, Sharon, I think you have covered pretty much of it. So I think some of the key skills, especially the creativity bit of it. What I would like to tell all our viewers here, the attendees, is guys, creativity is something that is not only bound to photography. It has unlimited coverage, right? It can start all the way from being a painter, all the way it goes to a art director or a creative director in an agency, a filmmaker, somebody who is into game design and all that. So creativity is something that you already inherit, and what we do as as mentors or as faculty at CMEDU is we kind of help you boost that into the right channel. That's something that most of the people without formal education miss. It takes years for them to get hold of the proper channels of driving their creativity into. But right here at least Streamway, what we do is we kind of try to channelize your creativity into the right path. We kind of recognize what your strengths are, and we kind of try to mold that. So that comes in very handy, guys. So that's something that I want to add, Sharon.
Perfect. All right. What does a photographer do? All right. So let's quickly go through this. You already know, as somebody who's interested in photography, you know that it's all about capturing images. So let me just give you a brief on that. Photographers use their technical experiences, creativity, expertise, creativity, and composition skills to produce and persevere images that visually tell a story or record an event. I've already spoken about this point, so I won't dwell on it. Photographers typically do the following. First of all, they market and advertise services to attract clients. If you're somebody who's a freelance photographer, you're not working under a company, it is very important for you to sell yourself. So for you to sell yourself, you have to have a very strong online presence. You need to have a good clientele. You need to have everybody who knows you, make sure that when you go for a wedding, even if it's your family wedding, you hand out few of you know your visiting cards, so people know that you exist. So marketing and advertising your services plays a key role as a freelance photographer. Next is analyzing and deciding how to compose and subject. Yes, when you're on the field, you're shooting, analyze your frame before you could just blindly start clicking pictures and handing it over to your client. If a photographer clicks more than like 200 pictures for one simple scene, it looks like he's incompetent, one, and secondly it looks like he's not able to figure out or analyze what he's supposed to click. So analyze, take a couple of test shots, and then take the main shot, and that's all that you need. Okay, so analyze and decide how to compose an image. Use various photographic techniques and equipment. When you are going in for a shoot, it is very important for you to pick your equipment right. All right, you can't carry the entire load of equipment that you have or you possess. Okay, you can't carry your studio and go around, especially when you're doing an outbound job, when someone is commissioned you to do a job. Usually when commission jobs are there, they provide the equipment, but sometimes as a photographer you have to hire some of the equipment, or if you already possess the equipment, you have to carry it. So various photographic techniques and equipment is very important. You need to know what you need to use. So for that skill, you have to study, you need to do your research, you need to practice. Then you know that, okay, for a portrait shoot I need this lighting, or for a fashion shoot I need another lighting. So it depends on that. Then capture subjects in commercial quality photography. Yes, all your images should look like it is worthy of being sold. If your images are not strong enough to be in the market, then you lack the skills, or you are not yet refined as a photographer. Enhance the subject's appearance with natural or artificial light. Here again, this is very technical. Okay, there is two different types of lighting. There's natural light and there's artificial light. Sometimes photographers, what they do is they mix both these lights. Sometimes a photographer has probably is doing an outdoor shoot where there is no availability of electricity to have artificial light, so he has to work with natural lighting. So you as a photographer tomorrow with your formal training should be able to understand the qualities of natural light and the qualities of artificial light. Next, moving on, use photo enhancing softwares. See guys, you're never going to get a picture that's perfect in the first click. All right, you have to click a couple of pictures, and then when you get the perfect picture, there is a little bit of tweaking that is required. All right, to make your picture look more vibrant, to make your picture look more sellable, or to look more professional, it is very important for you to learn these softwares. You have very obvious softwares like you have Photoshop, you have Lightroom. See, Lightroom has presets which is easier for you to use. All right, but Photoshop, it kind of helps you, edit in proportions. So I think let's not go deeper into softwares, but These are two enhancing softwares that you will probably study if you take up a course in photography at any place. Maintaining a digital portfolio, often on a website, to demonstrate works. This is something that is very important. We spoke about online presence, we spoke about having a portfolio. So it is very important for people to know who you are. You cannot be a ghost in the photography industry. Even if you're amazing, you're really, really good, you're somebody who has, images that can speak louder than words. If you don't have an online presence in this era, in this generation, that means you're nobody. So maintaining a digital portfolio along with a portfolio, by which you carry in your hand, is very important. A website, especially a website, even if it's a free website for starts. And then, eventually start investing a little more into your, online presence, into your marketing strategies as you make money is very important. Job opportunities. Bala, Shishir, anybody want to take up this commercial photography aspect?
Yeah, so job opportunities in commercial photography.
Bala, a little louder, please.
Yeah, sure. Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, guys, like already Sharon Madam and Shishir sir already have discussed, like commercial photography is something which is related to job opportunities. There you will be getting more job opportunities in this category actually, because as you see the word, it says like commercial. So commercial means something, that photographers are visual storytellers, right? We tell our story through our camera and through our visuals. So it's about like what exactly in the market, what is the demand. So suppose you're tomorrow going to start your own business. So what and all you required to start your business? You required brochures, you required posters, you required magazine ads, you required newspaper ad creative, and you required might be online website as well. So any business in this world can run through these visuals, because their customers, they have to reach for sales and for branding. And if you have noticed that every newspaper advertisement having one image prominently, or at least most of the advertisement, you will get the photographs or images. So as a photographer, we this is our work to build those image or the information or visual impact, so that it can attracts to audience. So we are the people who exactly build that imaginary that actually creates the value to that particular brand. So in commercial photography, that is the reason, as I said, like as there is no business in this world who can run without photographers. So let's go into more formal way. So let's see the first point. This is showing the e-commerce companies like Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, etc. So you know that these companies sell products, right? You go to their website, you select what you wanted to buy, you choose, and you see those pictures first, whether those pictures, those product, is this product looking good or not. So first there are 4 or 5 pictures which you select, you zoom them, you try to find the details, whether the details are fine or not. So these people required photographers. So yes, this is a good and vast opportunity for the budding photographers who wanted to work as like commercial photographers. So please enhance your skill in this side. So e-commerce photography, yes, this is a big place to work with. Second is editorial fashion or product photography in a studio. So again, it's a part of, as I said, like editorial fashion and product photography is a part of commercial photography. So editorial mostly like suppose magazines or newspapers, if you see, so there actually story, you can see the editor has written or some storyteller has written some stories. But any story, how it will be if a newspaper has written a story and there is no supporting image with that, it will be boring, right? So every storyteller required a supportive a story in form of image. So as a editorial photographer, as a editorial fashion photographer or a product photographer, we support that story with our images, and it makes quite interesting. So that is one big part. Hello.
Sharon, you will have to share your screen.
Okay, no problem. I think Sharon, I'm just explaining in that way. So by that time, Sharon can
Yeah, just a
share.
second, guys. I'm going to share my slide again. No?
No problem. So as I said, like editorial photographer, there is a huge opportunity.
I'm sorry, the internet is a little unstable.
No problem. Okay, so as an editorial photographer, this is also a big opportunity for the photographers. So, but yes, you required little bit experience in that, because you should not only know the photography part, but also you should know how to tell a story. That means if a writer has written a story, you should know how to convert that story into a visual art. So that is the reason editorial fashion is something which is required little bit skill. And a product photographer in the studio, again, product photography also associated with commercial photography, because if you see lot of, if I have to sell my product, I need one image, and that image should tell about my product and my company and my brand. So that is the reason, as a product photographer, again, it's a responsibility on the photographer to shoot it good, and it should give a visual appeal to the audience. That is the reason, again, if you have a skill, yes, this is good field for you. Wedding photography and high street photography companies. Yeah, wedding photography is something which is very emerging business right now. If you remember 10 or 20 years back, wedding photography is just like a regular, just a regular thing for everyone, right? You might have seen that that time videography, wedding videography and photography, people are not giving so much, like they're not taking much interest on that. Especially nobody wanted to become a wedding photographer or a wedding photographer, wedding filmmaker that time. But in this last 5 years or 10 years, if you say, there is a drastic change in that, because people have got to know that wedding is something which is a way to capture their memory for whole life. So it is not just taking one camera and capturing some few pics, that's it. No, nowadays people have understood that capturing these moments are very important. So this is the reason wedding photographers and wedding photography is an emerging market. And if you see nowadays, like how many people are actually shifting to wedding photography, and they are charging huge, because wedding photography is no more classical wedding photography. Now it become a form of art. That means you required a specialized eye, a specialized vision, and a specialized like skills to do wedding photography. So all these things comes through your formal learning, or be a part of a wedding photographer as an assistant. So this is how. So high street fashion, high street photography companies, like, again, so same thing, like you have to go with the different kind of skills, you have to learn these skills, and then you can, there are a good opportunity into that. Another thing is event management companies. So you know that nowadays event management, media production, this is huge. Everyone watches movie, everyone is actually looking for people, advertisement, televisions, everywhere. Social media is there. So there again, they required a photographers who can capture the moments, events, their media promotions, their hoardings, these things everywhere. If you see hoardings, where every, if you go out, you can see hoardings, poster everywhere. So this is where exactly there is a vast scope of job opportunities in this field also. And industries, hotel, interior design, you know that nothing can work, like industries cannot work without portfolio or catalog. So industries who suppose manufacture some product, and they have to showcase their product to their clients, or they have to promote or brand their products, they need photographers to capture those their products in that form, in a good form, so that they can further publish their product in brochures or something. So hotels also, they need a good brochure, good advertisement campaign. So photographers are there, interior design companies, like again, you have everyone seen like lot of along with the booming of real estate, you have seen that there is a big scope of interior photographers and architectural photographers. Advertising companies, anyways, all type of advertisements every day you see, whether it is a television, whether it is a newspaper, magazine, or social media, you see a lot of photographs. Without photographs, nobody take interest to read the story. So again, advertising company, there is a huge scope. I think Sharon and Shishir, sir, can you please explain a little bit more if required?
Yeah, not a problem. I think commercial photography, guys, we've already spoken about different aspects to it. I think Bala pretty much has covered the whole thing. So let's move on to documentary photography, and I'll quickly run through it. All right. Thank you, Bala, for the commercial photography input you gave us. Okay, so in documentary photography, you have photojournalism, forensic photographers, science and medical photographers, documentaries, wildlife and conservation, landscape, archaeological. Okay, so there is a lot over here. Okay, so let me just touch upon a few. Okay, so documentary photography, you know already, is anything which is being documented. All right. Anything that can help with value in history is all documented photography. When you capture an image, that image actually, you're capturing a piece of time, right? So that's how it works in documentary photography. So you have as a photojournalist, you have a good job opportunity as a photojournalist today. Especially, media industry is growing so much that everyone is on their phones, everyone is on their, you know, a middle class person always gets a newspaper home, whether he has a phone that gives him the same news or not. He wants a newspaper at home. And I think the news industry also is growing and people want to know things today. So as a photojournalist, it is very passionate. Okay, you become more passionate about the media industry, you start giving more importance to people, importance to different moments in time. So as a photojournalist, you can always work for a newspaper, magazine, film and television, work for news agencies like you have India Today, you have NDTV, you have magazines like The Week, India Today as well, Times Magazine, that is an international magazine. So there are a lot of newspapers and media companies that you can work for as a photojournalist. You can also work as a freelance photojournalist, guys. Like you can click pictures of an event and then sell it to the newspaper that actually pays you the most. All right. So you have a lot of agencies that provide these services for photojournalists. Then you have forensic photographers. So forensic photographers are people who work for the police. All right. If there's a crime, capturing pictures of in the crime. Again, this is something that you need to have a stomach for. It is a little complex, but as you do the job, you get to know it and learn about it. Then you have scientific and medical photographers, like photographers who are there to capture, scientific discoveries, scientific material. So again, let's not dwell too much on it. Again, this is something that is a specialized form of photography, so you really need to have the interest to get into it. Documentaries, if you're working with a documentary movie maker, you need to take some stills for him to use for his documentary photography, documentary film. So you can work with documentary movie makers to actually get some good images. Then wildlife and conservation photographers. Again, wildlife and conservation, it is not about capturing an animal, it is about capturing the essence of the animal, the environment of the animal, giving more life to the animals, surrounding, making sure that the world knows, see, this is an animal that needs to be in this place, so don't uh, take that away from them. So basically conservation is to keep the whole nature and animal going, without any manly interference. So no conflicts basically. Then landscape and archaeological photography. Here you have landscape photography where you're commissioned to capture images of a landscape, because a landscape never remains the same all the time. It changes over time. If you talk about Ooty, which is very close to Bangalore, the landscape has changed so much in the past 10 years. Every time you go, every year when you go there, it looks like a different place. So again, landscape photography is one very good way of documenting a place that tomorrow is going to probably change with the growing vast economy. Then you have archaeological photography where you're commissioned by the archaeologists, by the government of India to capture a couple of pictures. All right, maybe pictures of heritage sites. Basically, you're documenting it for them, so it needs to be documented right. You have to make sure that the details are right. Then you have travel photography for travel magazines, like you have Nat Geo. I don't know how many of you guys have seen BBC Earth, which is also a documentary movie. But a lot of still photography images go into that as well. So you have to be somebody who's really, really good in terms of traveling the world, being able to survive in any situation as well. So travel photography is one more branch that you can put your foot into if you're really interested in travel. If you're somebody who is on the road all the time, who loves, adventures, who's somebody who's okay with going through harsh situations, then travel photography is your go-to. All right. So let's move on to fine art photography. Guys, fine art photography again is very subjective. Shishir, do you want to take on fine art photography?
Sure, Sharon.
Just a quick overview.
Okay, well, I can see the time also being a constraint.
Yeah.
So a very quick overview of fine art, guys. So we are not trying to kind of succumb it down. To be honest, it's one of the most prestigious forms of photography. To be very frank, so like Sharon ma'am was saying, how wildlife needs a different set of liking or a stomach to have that kind of an appetite. Likewise, fine art also. Not everyone would love fine arts or the art bit of photography, but there are lot many aspiring photographers who like fine arts and fine arts only. They might not be even interested in the commercial bit of it. They love. There are so many people in the industry that I know, I follow, with my heart and soul, because they like what they do. They just shoot fine arts all the time. Maybe headshots. They try to incorporate fine arts in portraits. They try to incorporate fine arts through abstract ways and so on. So what do we want to look at in fine arts is something that the photographer or the artist there tries to shoot for themselves, to ensure that they are happy with what they are shooting. And the ways they try to bring it to the viewers is through art shows. There are a lot of art shows that happen, and there are so many art books that get released. So these are some of the ways that they try to showcase their works. Now, if let's say somebody is interested in fine art photography, there are very high chances that they might get into art curation, like we were discussing. And we know a couple of photographers who have gotten trained professionally in photography and have, by choice and by liking, got their career molded into art curators. They are now scrutinizing, and they are the heads of art galleries, where they kind of approve any art shows that happen. So that's again one of to have any of these built in. So one of the major skill set that you need to have is a fine eye in regards to fine arts. So on top of it, again, creative art directors, depending on how interested you are and how better skilled you are, you can always get into the creative direction part of it. Not just in advertising agencies, there are so many creative art directors who are making films, who are making photography series and so on. So these are just a couple of high level things, but it requires a very strong fine arts skill. And that's again a very specialized art by itself. I think over to you, Sharon. You can.
Yeah. Okay, this is also very similar to key skills that we spoke about, guys. What employers are looking for in photographers, basically skills that are required. I'm just going to quickly go through it and not really dwell on it, because we can start taking questions now. All right. So critical, analytical, and practical problem solving. You need to be a problem solver. If you're not a problem solver, that means you are not really strong as a photographer. All right. Then risk taking and making use of failures. Learning from your failures is a huge step in your success as a photographer. Righteous self-evaluative and critical reflection. You need to critically look into yourself whenever you make a mistake. Analyze your mistake and self-evaluate, see where you've gone wrong, and so that the next time you do the same thing, you're not actually that wrong as well. Organizing and planning and time management, guys. If you say you're going to do a shoot at 9 o'clock and you turn up at 10:30 at a client's place, that reflects very badly on you as a photographer. So as a photographer, you have to have very good time management skills. Planning, what is the equipment you're going to take? Who is your assistant? How are you going to brief your assistant about your equipment? Organizing your equipment perfectly, making sure that they are neatly kept. See, there are some photographers who actually just throw their equipment around and invest in it over and over again, but that shows a lot of disrespect to your work and profession. So organizing, planning, and time management is a very critical part that employers are looking for in photography. Working independently and in collaboration. Being a photographer is an independent job, but being a team player, it is hard but not undoable. You can always be a great photographer and work with 10 different photographers, give them your insight about things. It is very important for you to work independently and in a collaboration. So tomorrow, if you're hired by a company, they're going to expect these two things from you. The next is presentation, looking appropriate and presenting yourself appropriately. Then literacy and communication through technical descriptions. Whenever you're talking about technical aspects of photography, knowing the terms is very important. Using terms that are very immature makes you look very rookie and immature as a photographer. So these are the skills that employers are actually looking for in photographers that they hire, especially when you're going to work for a big organization. All right. These are some frequently asked questions. I think what we can do is we can each pick a couple of questions and answer this, Shishir, and then open it out for everyone so they can ask their questions. We don't need to answer all of these questions, but just pick a question that you think you can answer, and then we'll open it out to everyone because we're running a little crunch on time.
Okay, then I will take the first one. The first one, guys, so you can see it obviously whether it is a degree versus portfolio. To be honest, it's both. Like I said, having just knowledge of how to operate a camera, or probably how to get good images in your camera or on your computer, that's not going to be enough. In degree, it's also about marketing. That's something that you're going to learn. We have something called as digital marketing, wherein you will learn how to market yourself. What are the key ingredients that a photographer needs to know before stepping into the industry? How do you market yourself, right? So these are some of the things that you will only learn through formal education. It's a mix of degree versus the portfolio, and the portfolio at least. So to just simply answer the question, it will be both a mix of portfolio and degree. Yes, it both carries the same weightage. So that's my first this thing. And I will pick up another question: is photography a viable career option? Definitely yes. Definitely yes. There are more and more jobs that are coming up: freelance, full-time, part-time. So many genres of photography are opening up from the last couple of years that we are seeing, and it's only going to get more and more in depth. Yes, there are so much of automation that are coming into place. If you guys are reading through how the industry is evolving, automated photography is one genre which is going to see which is going to be very widely accepted in the near future. So if you ask me if photography is a viable career, definitely yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So we have other panelists as well, other than me, Shishir and Bala. We have, Nilesh, and we have Mansi ma'am. These are people from all over India. So we can ask them to pick a few questions as well. Anybody wants to take up some of the questions, guys? Bala, do you want to take up a question?
So guys, I just take a question. Like if you see here, the second question, why institute over online resources? So it's very easy nowadays, since we are very internet, you have fast internet and you have access to YouTube and different kind of online resources. But what I felt is since it's a sea of information, right? Because you are just starting your career right now, you don't know, you have a lot of questions also, that which is correct, which is not correct. So if you opt the second option, which is called online resources, so it might be useful for someone, but it cannot be useful for someone also. Because if you reach to a particular resource which is actually giving you correct information, then yes, online resource is good in some cases. But if you are not reaching to a proper resources, so it can be destructive for you also. So again, one more benefit of having a institute over the online resources, since if you are joining an institute, first of all, you are getting a formal education in the sense you are coming to college, you are meeting with, not you're learning, you're not learning alone, you're learning with many people. That means you're sharing your ideas to multiple students, multiple faculties. You're asking question to multiple faculties. Again, you having access to studio. That is like you can like at our Simedhu, actually we have a very good studio, which is one of the good studio in Bangalore. Even in Pune also we have best studio. So this way you have access to those studios, those equipments as well. That is not possible when you are doing online resources, because online resources you might be learning few things, but well, photography is not something that you just learn. You have to have hands-on experience, right? And you might be having a basic camera or might be few equipments, but you don't have all the equipments which is required to learn as a photographer. So this is the reason choosing institute in my opinion is good. And one more thing, like either you are getting a diploma or degree. So again, as I said before, yes, this gives a kind of edge to your career. If you have a good portfolio along with degree and diploma, obviously if you might be a good competitor for other photographers. Yes, passing to Sharon.
So, what are the big differences between bachelor's and a diploma in photography? All right, so this I would answer. See, guys, when you study a degree, right, it's spread across over a 3 year course. All right, so here in 3 years, you are getting a little more, time with each genre of photography which you're exploring. So you get a better understanding of the genre. So tomorrow, let's say you're done with a 3 year degree and you're going out, you already have an idea in your mind as to what you're going to choose. When you talk about a diploma, somebody has already completed a degree in their photography, I mean, in another field, and is very passionate about learning photography, and probably looking for a change in career. They can always opt for a diploma. A diploma will help them, learn something new, or get a better understanding of photography. But again, diploma is a very shorter span of time. You're trying to finish everything that you learn in degree within a year's time. Both work well, both are helpful in their own ways. But if you have time to spare and if you're looking to go deeper into photography, then a degree would do well. The next one is, what are some challenges faced at a job? I think challenges are something that is very subjective, guys. Each company will have a different kind of challenge. Each genre will have a different kind of challenge. As a photojournalist, your biggest challenge is making time for family, because you will not have time. As a I think as a rookie photographer, your biggest challenge would be, investing in expensive equipment, which is required, if you're going full time into commercial photography. So challenges are very, very subjective. It depends on the challenge that you faced for me to give you a very specific answer. Anybody else who wants to take questions, guys?
Hi,
Uh,
Sharon, Mansi here. I'm
Yeah.
sorry I had some internet issue. So, yeah, I would just like to add up to what Sharon said regarding the difference between a degree and a diploma. We all know that, like she mentioned, diploma is going to be for a shorter span, definitely. However, if you see the bachelor courses, right, so we do have different kind of subjects that we do go through in a bachelor degree. And because it is a 3 year 3 years that you spend in the degree, so you definitely get more time to practice, more time to experiment, more time to try different things out, and come to a conclusion that this is what I would want to choose moving forward once you pass out. Also, I feel if any of the students are interested in going for further studies, so a diploma would barely help us with that, because a minimum qualification of having a bachelor's degree is important to apply anywhere abroad, or maybe any course if you want to do for your master's. A bachelor degree is something that is a mandate. So definitely a bachelor degree would help you going forward to a diploma degree.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. Thank
Sharon,
you so much,
thanks.
Mansi. Let's open it out to audiences, guys, and let's all take some questions and answer. Shishir, you can go ahead and start reading out the questions, and then we can each pick a question and answer them. Sounds fair?
Sure. So let me go ahead with first of all, to all the attendees, guys, we have opened up for a Q&A. So please type in your questions. We will try and answer as many as questions as possible, keeping the time in our mind. So with a few questions that have come up, I would take up the first question. How do we approach Flipkart, Amazon, or any other e-commerce for product photography or any other kinds of photography? So I think I will take this question up myself. First understanding, guys, these e-commerce company, not naming any of them, but most of the e-commerce sites, what they are doing nowadays are they are looking at two different branches. That is, one is you have a freelance option. You can work for them as freelancers basis on the projects that you handle. They hire you for certain time and they make payments for that, for which you need to know everything about product photography, right from shooting all genres of products. So that is one. The other is the same companies do announce jobs on their websites. So you need to keep a constant look out for their openings. The moment they announce, you got to they are definitely going to ask for your portfolio and your resume. You can upload them and then wait for their response back. So I hope I have answered these work pretty much like any other companies out there who offer jobs, right? And moving on to the next question, I think the question is, are photojournalists paid good? Uh, on okay, and considering that most of the people have mobile phones and they are shooting whatever they see, is there a career for photojournalists still, and are they paid good? Somebody wants to take this question up?
Yeah, I'll take it up, Shishir. So, as a photojournalist, guys, there are different options for you to choose from. Okay, so see, your phone has a very small sensor for the camera. All right, let's understand first that the sensor plays a huge role in the kind of images that you're producing. Of course, phone images. Today, a lot of media companies are encouraging phone images. But if we're talking about a proper photojournalist, right, somebody who writes their own articles and produces their own images, then you will see that a photojournalist will always go for a good camera. Okay, I think recently one of the photojournalists that I met, a friend of mine from Mysore. He works for this very it's a local newspaper, but it's really good. A lot of people in Mysore actually read it. It's called Star of Mysore. So he was telling me that he uses a D850, right? Because it's got good quality. The color contrast is really good. It's a Nikon camera, and the camera is expensive. It's not a cheap camera, but the quality that you're getting, the kind of depth that you will get in your image, the kind of feeling that your image gives is much much stronger than a phone image. Your phone image will not be able to communicate the eyes of a person the way a digital camera does. So I think when you talk about photojournalism, you have to have some kind of a understanding of equipment and use it right and get through the right agencies to sell your work. You can always work for a company like a news company, but there are a lot of companies that hire you based on projects. That's about it.
Cool.
Shishi, next you can go on.
Thanks, Sharon. The next question is, how would a photographer promote his or her website? I think the question is more to do with SEO. So Bala sir, do you want to take this up?
Yeah, sure. So since guys, like, yes, it's about website. So you have to remember one thing: website is something that is called your digital portfolio. So first of all, if you have a good portfolio, like whether it is a website or not, it is first thing is that. So that means you have to build a nice website. Suppose if you have a website but it is not good and you are promoting further, there is no meaning out of it. So first you have to make a good website. Then further, if you wanted to promote your website, so there are multiple options you have. Since website is a digital platform, it's there in the digital platform, so you have to promote. First option is to promote it on digitally. So if you wanted to promote it, you have to opt for few things, which is called digital promotion. And under digital promotion, you have, like, that there is a social media nowadays. A lot of people are there in social media, so you can promote your website there, as well as there is on other things, which is Google. So Google actually a good thing where See the difference between these two platforms, whether it is social media or Google or such kind of search websites. So you have to understand that in digital media, if you are opting for social media options, so here exactly you have to promote. You don't know who is actually interested into your website or interested into your work. So you have to promote everywhere. You have to find people, whoever 4 5 people or 1,000 people are gathering online, and you have to promote your website. Out of that, you don't know who are interested, who are not. So there is a different strategy for that. But if you see in the Google model or any kind of search engine model, so suppose I have my housewarming ceremony today. So what I'll do is I need some photographer for my shoot for my place for today's event. So what I'll do, I'll go to Google and I'll search good like event photographers or this kind of photographers, good photographers near me. Okay, so first thing I'll search for near me or good photographers in Bangalore. That means in that way, suppose if you have a website, so there are suppose 30,000 photographers or 3,000 photographers are there in Bangalore, and out of 3,000 only 5,000 photographers have their own website. So those 5,000 photographers having at least chance to come on the result. But as you know, Google having only 10 first page, it will allow only 10 websites. So to rank there, to come on the ranking results, you need to perform some kind of activities called search engine optimization. So you have to think how to optimize your website so that it is so the Google can find it the best for the audience. So you have to understand what is SEO, how to optimize it. So you have two options. First, either you can learn yourself how to do SEO for your own website, or you have to find an agency which is little bit costlier, but you have to find it someone who can do SEO for your website, so that if somebody is searching for photographer through Google, so at least your website can come in the search result. If it comes in the search result, you know that if that website, that person will go to your website and he will see what and all your offerings are. But again, your website should be good, otherwise he will pass your website and you will jump to the next competitor. So these are the ways to promote your website. Other thing is social media, as I said, there you have to promote in a different approach. Yeah.
Thank you, Balasur. Mansi ma'am, we have a question, quite interesting. I think you can address this. So there's a question by one who asks, he's just completed his hotel management course, and he is presently, shooting a couple of, assignments on his own. He is editing his photos and so on. So he's still wondering if it's the best way to join the photography course after finishing his hotel management course.
Thanks, Shishir. Yeah, definitely. See, photography or any art field, it's more about the passion that we all have for it. If you have gone into hotel management, completed that course, and are doing some kind of assignments based on your learning that you've got till now, but definitely there can be a direction and more focused given to you and helped you out from our faculties. And it is a better option if you want to opt for a course and then move forward in photography and become a photographer. I think, yeah, Shishir,
Cool.
that would be it.
Thank you there. There's another question from YouTube. One of our viewers on YouTube has asked this. So this is more of a technical, I guess anybody from panel can take this. So the question is, somebody has started doing photography newly, and they have been getting, freelance jobs now. They have a slight bit of confusion as to what lens they can buy. The attendee is asking whether a 85 lens or a 70-200, what is good?
Actually, Shishir, it's depend on the kind of work that particular photographer is doing. So knowing the workflow and the kind of work, as that we have different genres, and according to that we buy different equipment. So I think they need to analyze the kind of work they are doing, and then have a proper research homework on it, and then they can go for the equipment. If we know a little bit more about the kind of projects they are doing, then definitely we can help them.
Definitely agree. Thanks. So Nileshwar, I think you have fairly mentioned that every lens available in the industry has its own
Yes.
purpose, and every assignment requires different kinds of equipment, right? Cool. Thanks for answering that. Another question, right? So, what is an average salary of a photographer if he or she chooses to get into a full-time job? What would be an average salary of a photographer?
Okay, so if you are pursuing, like if you are interested into photography and you are thinking that you wanted to come into this field, so you have to learn photography. And as you know, photography is also a career which is similar to other careers as well. So if you take in that way, so if you are starting initially and you are fresher at this field, so obviously you have to learn a lot. If you have basic idea about photography, so you can be you can opt as a job called internship. So you can be a intern of any a house or any photographer, or you can assist any photographer in that way. So a basic idea is like if you are starting your career, so 15 to 25K for interns you can get on an average. This is an average amount. And since after finishing this internship, suppose you continue this internship for 1 year, or let's say 1.5 year or 2 year, so you will be, this time you will utilize for your building portfolio. So again, as I said, like portfolio is everything. So suppose in this 2 years you have finished your duration and you got chance to build up your portfolio, then you can apply for different companies. Or there are two ways: either you are looking for job, or you're doing for, or you're looking for freelance options. So if you're looking for job, so there are companies like e-commerce nowadays, they have, as I Shishir sir already said, that they either looking for freelance photographer, or they are taking nowadays in-house photographers also. So in Amazon and this kind of e-commerce companies, almost like 40 to 50 to 55K you will get as a in-house photographer within, if you are going. And that also depends upon how experience, as how you're joining. If you're joining as a like experienced person, or little bit like little bit a fresher you're joining, so it depends upon that. But if you are looking for a freelance option, again, if you are new into photography and you're doing freelance, so it's like initially definitely you might be not having your good portfolio, so you might be charging less. And if you have started creating your portfolio down the line, 1 year 2 year, if you have got chance to make your good portfolio, so then money is no limit nowadays. And general, I am saying that as a professional photographer, every photo shoot, if a new person also there, at least he's charging 6K to 10K per day. That is what the basic like amount what photographers are charging for their shoot. That is, I'm saying, for the freshers, the basic photographers. But if you are a little bit experienced, and if you have a good portfolio, you have website, you can convince your client that yes, I can give you the best solution. So photographers per day, they might be charging 20K to 30K to 35K, depends. But if you are, there are good photographers, there are very experienced photographer, and nowadays photographers are charging like 90K 80K also for projects. That depends upon the volume and the kind of project and kind of client they may get. Apart from that, different genres there, like wedding photography. If you see, if you good, if you are good into that, you might be getting a per project like it's start from 70K, and you can go ahead. Then there is no limit, like how you convince your client and what and all solutions you're providing. So yeah, these are all. Yes, Shishir.
Cool. Thanks, Bala sir. There's a couple of questions regarding technical. I think we have multiple attendees asking pretty much of the same kind of question. So what we will do is I will club the questions and ask it at one go so that the answer becomes common. So one of the attendee asks, what would be the best camera be for a beginner? Okay, that's one question. And on the same lines, there is another attendee who is asking, is a Canon 200D better to start off with, or a Sony mirrorless? So anybody who wants to take this question up?
I think I can answer this, Shishir. Um, about the choice of cameras in the beginning itself, that as a beginner, what should you pick up? It's always a personal choice to begin with. It's on your budget basically. But to begin with, I don't think a beginner should opt for something which is like a full frame censored camera, which would cost you, the body itself will cost you around 2 lakhs. So the best options with the most common brands as Nikon and Canon, I would suggest that Nikon 5600 and Canon 200D and 800D are sufficient to begin as a photographer and to begin photography as an amateur. And the best part of these cameras are they have all the possibilities to experiment with different kind of lenses, and the functions that they have are pretty much aligned to cameras which are on higher end, except for the sensors which are different. So I think these two cameras can make sense to picking up photography on a beginner level, but also doing it in a very technically sound way. What was the other question? Sorry, Shishir.
I think that was pretty much it. So if at all you want to add, somebody else also asked the question, which would be the best camera to start off with wildlife photography?
Okay, in wildlife photography, the most important thing is that you have to have burst modes. Burst mode is something in which the camera goes, the camera shutter, it continuously takes images, and it takes images at a very fast pace. As long as you press the shutter release, it will go on taking images to give you multiple options to capture to capture a wildlife subject in action. So for that, and to do that in a quality level, you have to have a camera which is also having full frame sensors. So something like Mark 4 and Canon 5D Mark 4 and Nikon 850D is the best option. But again, it's for shooting wildlife especially, you would need telephoto lenses to attach to the camera body. So when you talk about 5D Mark 4 or Nikon 850, which are full frame cameras, their lenses which are compatible with these two bodies are again very, very costly. The body comes around 2 lakhs and the lenses would come around 3 to 4 lakhs. So the kit becomes very, what do you say, costly to afford. So to begin with wildlife photography at a beginner stage, again, Nikon 5600 and Canon 200 800D with the 70 to 300 lens should be good enough to do justice to your passion in terms of wildlife photography.
Cool. Thank you, Bhavna. So, guys, I think we are pretty much on the end of the time. It's so unfortunate that we have to probably end this. But before moving on, we would like to take one last question, which definitely is, very interesting. Keeping the question goes as keeping the COVID-19 effect to the entire world, and especially to the photography industry that we are in. How does it look like for somebody to start a career in photography now? And if we choose to start a career in photography with all the COVID-19 happening, how can we deal with it? Can somebody take this question up?
Yeah, Shishir, I'll go ahead and I'll take this question. See, the thing with right now, the way economy is running, I think commercial photography, yes, there's going to be a drop in, the kind of jobs we get, because see, a lot of people who are doing wedding photography, all the weddings are cancelled because there's no public gathering, so there is a loss in their business, of course. And you know, any company actually. Let's talk about these big production houses as well. Those who are selling products online, the e-commerce company, even they are shut down. They cannot sell their products. So there is a crunch right now because the COVID-19 is not it's not a disease that can be cured. All right, it takes its own time. We don't have a cure for it. So of course, the economy is dropping a bit. So when we talk about starting off a career now in this situation, I don't think that is it's not wise enough, of course. But then as time goes, we always have this way of picking, getting up, rubbing off our knees, and starting off our lives again. So if you're somebody who's already been in the field of photography for a while, I'm sure you'll find a way to sustain yourself in the field of photography. But if you're somebody who's looking at starting off a career, let's say you've completed your degree, I think it's going to be a little hard for the first few months at least of this year. But eventually, I think all darkness comes to an end, and eventually you will get a job. So that's about it. So you have to be able to cope with this pandemic and, not lose hope rather.
Okay,
Um,
thanks. Thanks, Sharon ma'am. Bhavna ma'am, do you have anything to add?
Yes, the positive point of this ongoing times, I would like to add on to what Sharon ma'am has said, which is the utmost practical truth that all the businesses are down, and any photography stream which is related to business streams, for example, product and wedding and all that, that is services which we deliver to people, that's definitely down. But again, this is also the time when people are stuck onto mobile screens and they are constantly looking for feeds. So this is a good time for photojournalism to pick up, and this is also a good time to maybe uh, watch stuff which makes sense, or which is I mean, again, photojournalism is the stream of photography which stays in the oddest time, be it World War One, World War Two. When everything shuts down, there are a couple of things which stay alive. Especially media stays alive in all the odd times. So this time in particular, with respect to genre of photography, varies, and yeah, the commercial photography aspect could be little tough to handle as in these times. However, if you want to explore concepts, or if you want to explore photo stories, and if you want to explore the genre of photojournalism as such, this time can be used, made good use of.
Yeah, so this time can be used for your education. So we
Yeah.
know that this is the temporary situation, and every, not only photography, every field, even photography is less affected. But if you see, there are other fields which are more affected towards it.
Hmm.
So this is the good time to study, and I think this time can be utilized so that once the things can open properly, so we can go ahead.
Cool. Thanks everyone, especially thanks to all the panelists who have contributed, and all the attendees. A big shout out to you. Thanks for attending and being patient. We hope we have addressed all your questions. Keeping time in mind, we have chosen the best and we could answer. Yes. Please, for any further information, so there's an email, there's a website ID on your chat box. Please log on to our website and reach out to us for any other further questions that you might have in terms of registration and all. Thank you. Thank you guys for attending. Thanks everyone. Stay safe, stay indoors.